Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Monique. If you are new here, please don't forget to click on the red button below to subscribe. And to all my subscribers, I say thanks for all the support. Today I'll be showing you how to draft this easy lapel jacket, so let's get started. So I'll be using this flower crepe fabric for these tutorials. It's a 3 yards of fabric and the lining is 3 yards. So this is the pattern paper I'll be using to draft it. This is the back pattern paper. So I'll keep it aside and draft the front. So the pattern paper is on a fold. I use the biggest part of the bodice, which is the hip. The hip is 40 divided by 4. It gave me 10. I added extra 8 inches. So that is 18 inches. So the first measurement I'll be taking is the collar extension. So I'll be using 1.5 inches for the collar extension. I'm taking a straight line by 1.5 inches. So I'll draw it out. I'll take another straight line. That will be the button extension. So I'll be using 1 inch for the button. So I'll also draw it out like this. So that is 2.5 inches for both lines. So I'll start my measurements from the button line, from this line here. So the first measurement I'll be taking is the shoulder width. The shoulder is 15 divided by 2 will give me 7.5. I'm adding 1 inch for seam allowance. Then I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. Then I'll take the neck width. I'm using 4 inches for the neck width. Then I'll connect the shoulder slope to the neck width like so. So after doing that, from this neck, from the shoulder slope, I'll come down by 8 inches for the chest line. So after getting that, I'll take the shoulder to waist, and the shoulder to waist is 17 inches. Then I'll take the full length. That is where I want my jacket to stop. I'm using 32 inches. I'll add 2 inches for seam allowance. That's 34 inches. So after doing that, I'll place the shoulder measurement on the chest line, and I have 8.5 inches. So I'll draw a straight line. Then I'll get the midpoint of this line. Then I'll come in by 0.75. Connect the line to the shoulder. So now I'll take the bust circumference. The bust is 38. I'm adding 2 inches. That's 40. 40 divided by 4 will give me 10. I'm adding 1 inch for that and 2 inches for seam allowance. Now I'll also add 2 inches on the waist. The waist is 30. I'm adding 2 inches. That's 32. 32 divided by 4 will give me 8 inches. So I'm adding 1 inch for that and 2 inches for seam allowance. I'll do the same thing for the hip. The hip is 40. I'm adding 2 inches. That's 42. 42 divided by 4 will give us 10.5. I'm adding 1 inch for that and 2 inches for seam allowance. So I'll connect my lines. So after doing that, I'll connect the armhole. I'm connecting it to the bust circumference like this. Then I'll take the shoulder to bust point to get my darts. The shoulder to bust point is 11 inches. So now to get my dart, I'll take the bust span. The bust span is 8 divided by 2 will give me 4. So I'm adding half an inch. So that's 4.5. I'm placing it on the waist, and on the full length here, I'm going to add extra 1.5 inches to the dart. That is 6 inches. I don't want it to be straight. I want it to have a little curve. So I'll place it here, but it's not compulsory. You can decide to do it straight. I just want it to have a little curve on the full length. That is why I did it like that. So I'll take half inch on both sides on the waist. Then on the bust point, I'll come down by 1 inch. Then I'll connect it like so. Then on this full length, I'll come up by 5 inches here. Then I'll connect the dart to this 5 inches. So now I'm making an armhole princess dart. So I'll get the center line of the armhole. Then from the bust point here, I'm going to connect it to the center line. So what I'll do, I'm going to take like a broken line to meet this center point. Then I'll extend this line out by 2 inches like so. Then I'll reshape the armhole. So this is our armhole princess dart. So now on the neck width, I'll come down by 1 inch. Remember, we used 4 inches for our neck width. I'll come down by 1 inch like this. I'll take a straight line. Then I'll take like 1/4 inch. I'll slant the line like so. From this point, I'll just slant it a little. It's not compulsory. You can still use the straight line. I just want it to have a little slant. Then from this point, I'm going to take the neck depth. The neck depth I'm using is 5 inches. So I'll take my ruler and I'll connect it out of the line to the collar extension. Then I'll also connect it this way to this button line on the waist. That's, I'm connecting it to the waistline. So it's meeting the button line. So I hope you understand. So this will be our collar extension. Now I'll be drafting the back. I've also marked out the shoulder line here. So from the shoulder line, I'll take the back half length. So the back half length is 16 inches. So I'll go ahead and connect it like this. Then I'll take the full length and I'll add the seam allowance just like we did for the front. So I'll take 1 inch for the zipper allowance. Even though we are not putting a zip, it's just to tighten the back to avoid bulge at the back. So on this back half length, I'm going to come in by 0.75. So I'm going to connect it out like this. From here, I'll connect it outside the line, and from this point I'll also do the same thing on the lower part. So I'll use my ruler to connect it like so. I'll do the same thing here. Now I'm going to place the front on the back like this. So I'm going to make sure this button line aligns with the zipper line. So I'm going to place them accurately like this. I'll align the lines like so. Then I'll pin it up. I'll secure it with a pin. Then I'm going to take the back neckline. So the back neck width is 4 inches, just like the front. Then the depth, I'll be using 1 inch. So I'll use my armhole curve to connect it like this. So I'll cut it out. Then I'll also cut out the front neckline. So look at this sharp edge. It's very important for our collar. So now I'm going to cut out this excess on the front collar extension. So I don't need this part. So our collar is going to be like this on our jacket. So now I'm going to trace exactly what I have on the side for the front and the back. But the back armhole is going to be ½ an inch higher than the front here. So now I'm going to make a little curve on this part. I don't want it to be straight. I just want it to have a little curve on the hemline like so. So I'll cut it out. Then I'll cut out the darts. As you can see, I'm tracing the front and the back together. Then I'll cut out the excess on the center back to avoid bulge. So this is the back pattern. This is the front. This is the front side. And this is the back side. But I'm going to reduce this curve so that because our back is straight, let it not have a bust line on the back. That's why I reduced it a little. So now I'll be cutting the collar. So to get the collar, pick the center back and the center front on the shoulder. I'm going to use masking tape to secure it like this. So from this point, I'm going to come in by 2 inches. That's the center front here. I'll come in by 2 inches because the collar is going to be like this. So I'll start taking the measurement from these 2 inches. Then on the back, remember we're going to join the back by 1 inch. So I'm taking the measurement from this 1 inch line. Then I'll curve it like this until I get to this sharp edge. Remember that sharp edge we took that we slanted the line by 1/4 inch. So I'll make sure I get the exact measurement on this curve line or this sharp edge here. So I have about 6.5 inches. So I'll continue taking the measurement after the 6.5 inches. I'll continue taking it until I get to this 2 inches point I took earlier here. So I have about 13.5 inches. So I'll be adding ½ an inch for seam allowance. That's 14 inches. So from the center back to this point, I have 6.5 inches. Then remember I came in by 2 inches. So I have 14 inches all round. That's on the neck round. I have 14 inches and here is 6.5 inches. So I'll be using the measurement to cut out the collar. So I folded another piece of paper into two. Remember I said from this center back to this sharp edge, I have 6.5 inches. So I'll draw out a straight line by half an inch here. Then on that straight line, I'm going to place the 6.5 inches like this. So I'll mark it out, the 6.5. Then I'll take a straight line. I'll just measure the 6.5 again to get an accurate line. Then from this point here, this sharp angle, this angled line, I'm going to take a straight line on the middle like so. So I got the center line of this angle. So what I'll do, remember I said the neck round is 13.5. I added half an inch, that's 14 inches. So I'm going to place the 14 inches that I have from this point. I'm going to place it on the center back here. So the 14 inches is going to be like this. Then I'll curve my measuring tape like so on this new line I took. I'll make sure I get up to the 14 inches, and I also make sure that 6.5 inches is still accurate. So this is the 14 inches. Then I'll extend the line by 2 inches here. So on the center back here, I'm going to take 3.5 inches. Then I'm going to connect the line like this to the 2 inches. Then I'll use like a broken line to connect it to the 3.5 inches. So what I'll do next is on this point, on this center back, I'm going to make a little curve. I'm going to take 1/4 inch on this point here. I'll take 1/4 inch here. Then I'll connect it to this line like this. It's not compulsory, it's just to make the neck side to sit properly. Then I'll do the same thing here. I'll take 1/4 inch here. Then I'll just connect it to this line again. So the collar is not supposed to be straight. It's supposed to have a little curve. So I'll cut it out. So this is our collar. This is the center back. So our collar is ready. So I'll be cutting 2 of it. So this is how I'm going to place it on the dress. This is the center back. It's going to start from this 1 inch line. Then I'm going to make sure this sharp edge is aligning with this other edge here, like so. So our collar is going to be like this. You understand when I draft it on the fabric. So the next thing I'll do is to place it, to cut it on the fabric, and I'll show you. So I'll be cutting the pattern on the fabric. I'll be cutting both the lining and the fabric. So I've gone ahead to cut it out. This is the side front, this is the lining, and this is the fabric, and this is the center front. I cut out 4. So 2 pieces is going to serve as the lining for the collar extension. Then this is the back. I've also cut out the lining and the fabric. That's the side back and also the center back. So I've gone ahead to add interfacing to the collar. So I cut out two pieces for the collar. Then I've also added interfacing on all the patterns I cut out. So this is the lining. I added interfacing and the fabric. So the first thing I'll be doing is to place the center front and the side front together like so. So this is the lining of the front. So I'm going to sew it. I'll pin it up. I'll be sewing it by half an inch. So I'll be sewing it by half an inch. You will have something like this. I'll repeat the same thing on this other side of the front. So this is the other side of the lining, the front lining. Then this is the main fabric, the center front and the side front. I'll do the same thing. I'll be sewing it by half an inch all the way down. So this is the other side of the front. I'll repeat the same thing. I'll join all the patterns together by half an inch here. This is the center back and the side back. This is the fabric. I'll do the same thing like I did for the front. I'll be joining them by half an inch. So I'll do that and I'll show you. So guys, I've gone ahead to join the patterns together. So this is the center front and the side front. So this is the second part of the side front. So I've also joined the lining for the front. So this is the second part. Then this is the back. I've done the same thing. So what I'll do, I'm going to join the center back together. That is good side facing good side. I'm starting with the lining. So this is the center back. Remember, we cut out some excess to avoid bulge. So I'll be sewing it by 1 inch. I'll do the same thing for the main fabric. Good side facing the good side, and I'll join it by 1 inch. That is the center back. So on the front, I'm going to join the lining and the main fabric together. So what I'll do is I'm going to make sure the center fronts are aligning. Then I'll come in by 2 inches. Remember that 2 inches I took in earlier, like this. So I'm going to start sewing it from this point to this point. So I'll pin it up. So after sewing it by 1/4 inch, I'll sew this side also to the end by 1/4 inch. So I'll pin it up. So I'll be sewing it here and stop here by 2 inches. Then after I sew it, I'll turn it over and sew it to the end. So what I did here, I'll do the same thing on the front panel, and I'll show you when I'm done. So guys, I've gone ahead to join the back panel together on the center. This is the center back. So this is the lining, and I've also given it a good press. So this is the front panel. I've also joined the lining and the fabric together. So let me open it up and show you. So this is the wrong side. So this is the 2 inches I started stitching it from by 1/4 inch. When I got to this point, I now crossed it over all the way to the end of the fabric. So this is the good side. So this is how it's going to be, like this. So this is the other side. So this is the collar, the extension. So now I'm going to join the front and the back together on the shoulder. So I'm picking the fabric to fabric. I'm going to sew it by 1/2 inch. So I'll pin it up. I'll sew it by 1/2 inch. I'll do the same thing on the other side of the shoulder. I'll sew it by 1/2 inch. Like I said, I'm sewing fabric to fabric and lining to lining. So I'll repeat the same thing on the lining. I'll pick the shoulder. So this is the front shoulder. Now place the back shoulder together like this, lining to lining. So I'll sew it by 1/2 inch, good side facing each other. So I'll do that and I'll show you when I'm done. So guys, I've joined the shoulder. So as you can see, I sewed the fabric separately from the lining. I did the same thing for the other side. So now I'll be fixing my collar to the dress. So this is the collar. I told you I've added interfacing to it, and I cut out 2. So I'll place it like this, good side facing each other, and I'm going to sew it from this point here by 1/4 inch all the way round to this point. So I'm leaving here open to turn it out. I'll also leave here open. So I've gone ahead to stitch this part, and I left here open. So let me turn it to the good side. So I'll be top stitching it here. I'll top stitch it here to this point. So guys, I've gone ahead to top stitch it. So I'm going to fold it like so into 2 equal half, and I'll get the center point here. I'm going to notch it. So after notching it, I'm going to place it on the dress. So this is the neckline of the jacket. So this is the lining and the fabric. So I'm going to get the center back. So the collar is going to be in between the lining and the fabric. So on the center of the collar, I'm going to place it in between the lining and the fabric on the center back like this. So I'm trying to get the center back of the lining to align with the collar. That's the center of the collar. I'm doing the same thing for the center back of the main fabric. So I'll pin it up here. Then I'm also going to make sure the three parts are aligning like this. Then when I get to this edge, this sharp edge, remember we took 6.5 inches here, I'm going to make sure the collar is sitting properly here, like so. So I'll place them together and I'll pin it up. As you can see, the two shoulders are aligning. So I'll pin it up. So I'll do the same thing for the other side. I'll make sure they are properly placed and are aligning. So I'll stop at that 2 inches I took for the collar extension. So after doing that, I'm going to sew it by 1/2 inch all the way to the end, and I'll show you. So guys, I've joined my collar to the dress. As you can see, it's properly placed. So this is where I joined it, and I made sure the two center back are aligning with the collar. So I fixed the collar. This is the 2 inches for the collar extension, and this is the collar. So now I'm going to join the sides together. That is the front and the back. I'll join them on the sides. So I'm going to join them separately, lining to lining and fabric to fabric. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure the back, because remember the front is open, we'll not get the measurement properly. So I'll get the bust circumference. The bust circumference is 40 divided by 2. I have about 3 inches here. I'll divide the 3 inches into 2. Then I'll place 1.5 inches here and here. So I'll do the same thing on the waist and on the hip. I'll take the measurement. I'll use the excesses and divide it into 2. So I've gone ahead to mark out the measurements. That's for the seam allowance. I've marked it out on the lining, and I've also marked it on the fabric. Like I said, I'm sewing fabric to fabric and lining to lining. That is good side facing good side. So I'll go ahead and mark the measurement and I'll sew it. I'll repeat the same thing for the other side. I'll do that and I'll show you. So guys, I've joined the side seams. So this is the lining and this is the fabric. So we are almost done. We've joined the collar and we've also joined the side seams. Now we'll be fixing the sleeve. I already have a video on how to draft a basic sleeve. I'll be dropping the link on the description box. The sleeve is going to have a lining. So I'll make the length of the sleeve, that's the length of the lining, 1 inch shorter than the main fabric. So after doing that, I'm going to place it on the lower side, that is the hemline. I'm going to join them together, good side to good side, and I'll pin it up. I'm going to sew it by 1/2 inch here. So after I sew it, I'll turn it over to the good side, both the lining and the fabric. I'll fold them together like this. I left 1 inch for seam allowance, so I'm going to sew it like this by 1 inch. After I get to this point, I'll continue sewing it till I get to the end. So I'll do that and I'll show you. So guys, I've joined the sleeve. I stitched it by 1 inch. I stitched it from the lining all the way down to the main fabric. So after doing that, I'll turn it to the good side. So as you can see, it's having a clean finishing. So this is the sleeve. I did the same thing for the other sleeve. So I'll be joining the sleeve to the jacket. So I'll join it from the side seam here. I'll pick the side seam of the jacket. So I'll make sure the two side seams are aligning. That is the main fabric and the sleeve. I'll make sure it tallies together here. So I'll pin it up. Then I'll turn it over to the wrong side. So I won't be sewing the lining with the sleeve. I'm only sewing the main fabric, and I'll show you what to do. So guys, I've gone ahead to stitch the sleeve with the main fabric. So this is the lining. I didn't join it with the sleeve because I want it to have an inseam finishing. So what I'll do, I'll get the good side of the lining here. That's on the side seam. And I'll place it on the sleeve. I'll place it on the good side of the sleeve from the side seam also here. This is the good side of the sleeve. I'll place the good side of the lining to the good side of the sleeve. So as you can see, the two lining are facing each other. So I'm going to pin it up. So I'm making sure I'm pinning the good side to the good side. So I'll show you what I've pinned so that you see what it will look like when I sew it. So this is what it will look like when we sew it. So this is the part I pinned. So I'll take it to the sewing machine and I'll sew it all the way around, good side to good side, and I'll show you when I'm done. So guys, I'm done. I've fixed the sleeve. As you can see, it's having a neat finishing. The stitches are not showing. So this is the other side. So now I'll be joining the hemline, but to achieve that, I'll have to open somewhere here that will pull out the jacket after turning it. But before I do that, I'm going to reduce the lining by 1 inch like this. So I'll cut it out. The lining is supposed to be 1 inch shorter than the main fabric. So I'll turn it to the wrong side. I'll start sewing it from here, from the beginning here. I'll make sure the fabric and the lining are equal. And I'll make sure the center back of the lining is equal with the center back of the fabric. So after placing it properly, I'll sew it all the way down till I get to this point here. So I'll do that and show you. So guys, I've joined it by 1/2 inch. So as you can see, there's no place to bring out the good side. So what I'll do, I'm going to open this side on the lining. I'll open the side. So I've opened it up. So I'll pull it out from this part I opened. So I'm going to top stitch this side I opened here. I'm going to top stitch it. After doing that, I'm going to give it a good press and I'll show you. So this is our jacket. So this is the outcome of the 1 inch I reduced from the lining. It made the main fabric to show on the lining. Then I've also gone ahead to top stitch this part and I've given it a good press. So we are done with these tutorials. So this is our jacket. This is the extension of the collar. So I'm going to fix a button here and here. You can decide not to fix a button if you want. So this is the end result of our jacket. We've come to the end of these tutorials. I hope it was helpful. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe and share. Thanks for watching.